Hey guys, Jacqueline here, and today I am going to show you how to add a player controller to the Asteroids game that we started last time. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is, if you haven't already, create a scripts folder. I already created mine, and inside the scripts folder we're going to right click, create, and create a new C# script. I'm going to call this player controller. And from this script, we're just going to be able to control our player here. Right, so I'm going to double click to open up in Visual Studio. Awesome. Once you have this opened up in Visual Studio, you can go ahead and delete the start and update function for now. And then we're going to create a couple of variables here at the top that are going to have to do with player movement. So the first thing we're going to do is a public float move speed. This is going to be our speed moving forward and back. Okay, and then second, we're going to create a public float rotate speed, and this is going to be the speed that we rotate left and right. Oops. Awesome. Awesome. So now that we have that, we're going to just add back in our void update. And in the update, we're going to get input from our player to see if the player wants to move. So how we're going to do this is we're going to get which input is based off of the axis it's on. So if the player wants to move on the x-axis, which is left or right, we're going to get our horizontal input axis, and then if the player wants to move up and down, we want to get our vertical input axis. So we're going to do just that. We're going to save them into a float. So float horizontal equals input dot get axis, and then the axis name is horizontal with an uppercase H. Okay, and then next we're going to do the same thing but for vertical, equals input dot get axis vertical with a capital V. Perfect. So now we're able to get input from the player. And just so you guys know, this generally is linked up to our WASD and arrow keys. So that's usually what these are linked to. And you can set these in Unity inside the input manager, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But let's just get our character moving just forward and backward for now. So to do that, we're going to use, we're going to create a new vector3. So vector3, call this my pause, and we're going to set this equal to the transform, oops, transform.position of our player. Okay, and then we're going to set my pause, and we're going to add the input from the player, like the direction that we want to go. We want to add our position like over time. So we're going to do plus equals, and this is going to be vector, actually we're going to do transform.up. And we're doing up here because the little spaceship here is pointed in the up direction. So you can see, you can tell by this green arrow, that's our up arrow, and then this red arrow here is our right arrow. So if your sprite is facing like the other way, so if it was facing down, we would do negative up. If it was facing towards this right arrow, you're going to do transform.right. And you just want to do the direction that this spaceship looks like it's facing in. Okay, so mine's my position plus equals transform.up. We're going to multiply that by our vertical, since we want to move on our up and down, so forward and backward. And then we're going to rotate, multiply by our move speed, So this is how fast we want to go. And then finally, we're going to multiply by time.delta time. So that way we can move over time, so it looks like we're moving per second instead of jumping a bunch. And then finally, we're just going to set the transform.position equal to my pos. Okay. And this is going to be moving the player forward and backward. Perfect. So once you have this completed, let's save. So Control S and head back to Unity to test it out. So I'm going to hit play here. Okay, so this isn't going to work. I almost forgot. We have to add this script to our player. So you just want to click on your player, and then we can drag the script from our scripts folder over to the add component button, and it will just drop that right on there. And then we're going to set our move speed to 15 and our rotate speed, I'm going to say 135 for now. I usually prefer a pretty quick rotate. It feels better, but as you can see here, if I press W, I'm moving forward, S, I'm moving back, and then alternatively, if you press the arrow key, so up arrow will move you forward, and back arrow, the down arrow will move you backward. And you can see that it's moving in our forward and back direction. Awesome, so now we can go ahead and get our rotate in, and then I guess, let me show you this real quick. So if I press A and D, nothing happens yet, we don't rotate. That's mostly because we haven't set, that's entirely because we haven't set up our the logic for inner script. So let's go back to Visual Studio, and then underneath where we did our movement logic, we're just going to do our rotation logic. So this one is quite simple. We're going to use a function that's built into Unity called transform.rotate. So transform.rotate with a capital R, and then always after this you're going to need parentheses because it is a function that is included in Unity, and then this just needs to know which direction, which axis to rotate on, how fast we want to rotate, everything like that. So inside these parentheses we're going to do transform.forward, and that is because we are rotating on our forward direction, so that is the direction that comes out toward the camera. So it's the axis that we're looking straight down at our sprites on, and then we want to multiply that by horizontal to let it know which direction we want to rotate in. And we're actually going to make this negative because the controls are actually inverted. So if you don't make it negative, if you press left, your character will rotate right, and if you press right, it'll rotate left. So we want to make that negative just so we have the inverse of that. So instead of it going right when we press left, we want to go left when we press left. So that's going to take care of that for us. And then we want to multiply by our rotate speed and also by time.delta time so that it looks like a smooth rotation over time, so over seconds, instead of just like a jumpy per frame movement. Awesome, so that should take care of our player's rotation. So rotate in the direction by the player. So this is just going to rotate us in the direction that we press on the keyboard. Okay, so if we hit save and go back to Unity, and we've already put our controller script on here, but if you haven't updated the rotate speed, this is a great time to do that. I'm setting mine to 135. If you forget to set this, it'll say 0, so you won't rotate at all. So make sure you double check this, especially if you hit play and you find that you're not rotating. Okay. So now I'm going to hit play and we're going to test this out. So I can still move forward, I can still move back, and then if I press A, I can rotate to the left. If I press D, I can rotate to the right, and then same thing with my arrow keys, rotating left and right. And then you'll notice that if you rotate and then press forward, you move in your forward direction, and that is still true. If that's So we want to be able to always do that. So that is how we get that set up, but you'll notice that as we're rotating, it's not quite rotating at the center of the ship. It's kind of rotating from like the windshield, and that doesn't, feel all that like good to me. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and set up the player sprite to have a different pivot point. So we're gonna go to our sprites folder, go to PNG, and then select your player ship that you're using. I'm using this like X-Wing blue one. And then in the inspector, just go to sprite editor. Okay, so once you have this open, we want to look for this blue circle here in the center. And what we want to do is just click it and drag it down kind of back here where it's like in the center here between the wings. Because this is where we're going to want to rotate from. We don't want to rotate from the windshield. That looks kind of janky. So we actually want to rotate from this point back here. Right? And once you have that in a position that you like, we're going to just hit apply next to this like rainbow button, and that's going to save our changes. So now if we go back into the editor and hit play, and you rotate, you'll see that you're no longer rotating around the windshield, but instead this point, and I think it looks a lot better as far as rotation goes. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I will try to respond to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, if you like this video, please hit that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe. Next time we're going to be working on shooting. We're going to get the player so that it can shoot some lasers out and eventually kill some asteroids. So I will see you next time. Thank you so much.